Welcome in, everybody, to another installment of Huskers Live at Nebraska Football at the voice of college football. And boy, do we have a week to recap after some drama over Matt Rhule and company sitting on some John Deere tractors out in the field and bringing a bull in the locker room and people wondering, does this help recruiting? The answer is emphatically yes, as confirmed by Jamal Rhule last week or last Thursday. And clearly by the commitments that we've gotten today so far. So I'm going to bring Mr. Recruiting guy himself, Brian, into the conversation. Brian, how you doing today, man?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Doing fantastic. Like I said, it was a good week overall. We're going to break down a lot of the commitments, some of the guys that we missed on and or a guy that we missed on. And then we have an announcement set right as this show is supposed to conclude. So we're going to
just broke.
Probably just,
Just broke.
Okay.
Larry Miles Jr. is in.
Larry Miles Jr. is in. Okay, so you heard it here first. So Larry Miles is a Husker commitment there. Brian's going to be dropping a video on the channel, so that way y'all can check it out afterwards whenever we're done here as well. So we got a commitment while we're on the channel. We'll go ahead and go through that as well and dive into that a little bit. So let's go ahead and first off, I want to preface this about Big Ten Media Days. So Big Ten Media Days coming up July 22nd. So the representatives for Nebraska are going to be Dylan Rhule, Henry Lutovsky, Sean Singleton, and Matt Rhule, of course. So that'll be July 22nd. Not sure which day they're going to be on. Supposed to be going out there this year, but due to work and other stuff, other things going on, I wasn't able to make it. So we will have guys out there, though, and I will be providing them with some questions to ask. So I'll be posting some clips of the Big Ten Media Days as well, of some exclusive content. So y'all stay tuned for that. But without further ado, let's just go ahead and get into what we came here for. Let's talk a little recruitment. First off, just give me your quick breakdown of the Larry Miles commitment.
Yeah, I love Larry Miles. When Nebraska missed out on the SEER ranking, this is what I love about Coach Rhule and his staff is they always have, and we talked about this at the time, they always have that backup plan kind of ready to roll. And they quickly pivoted to Larry Miles. They brought him in for a midweek visit. Then he was coming in for an OV shortly thereafter. And I remember when you and I were talking about this visit, we said things with Nebraska are going to move quickly for Larry Miles. And that's exactly what happened. I think it's kind of funny, like when Nebraska is going after like a big time recruit like Valdensone, for example, and then Georgia comes in and it's like Georgia carries a lot more weight, right? It's the same thing in this case for Nebraska, except we were the bigger team of who he was considering. Pitt, for example, Kentucky, for example. And when we came in, it had the exact same effect as when a bigger recruit gets that bigger offer. So this is a big pickup for Nebraska, real shifty, a true slot receiver, high-end speed, good hands, good routes, good footwork, and it just keeps this Nebraska movement going. It's a huge pickup. I'm super pumped.
Yeah, I agree. I echo a lot of the things that you mentioned just with his overall ability. You know, he's quicker than he is fast, which just goes to show how quick he is. He has a route runner in his X name, which shows just what his focus is on. And with good route running, you can play anywhere along the receiver core in college football. Like they can line you up anywhere. If you're a good route runner, you can find a way to fit in anywhere on the field. And I think that's the biggest thing that Larry Miles brings is he is very limited in terms of his, he's 5'10", 170. So, but as a slot receiver, he's going to be a little bit undersized. But it seems like he's just going to be able to find ways to get separation. And that's what Nebraska's really, really lacked, especially last year. Like there was just no separation. And I understand the route concepts were terrible, but the route running was just lazy. So to have a guy who comes in and makes that part of the game his focus and really prides himself on that, it's going to be really huge for him, being able to run up against college defenses that are going to throw different looks, different schemes at him and stuff like that. So, we'll see kind of what type of receiver he turns into, but it has the potential to be one of those game-breaking guys and one of those guys that you can go to, when potentially a reliable person on third down to go to that can get you a little bit of separation when nobody else can. So, Larry Miles, just a huge get. Uh, 68 passes, I think. I got it right here. 68 passes, 1,200 plus yards, 10 touchdowns in my notes. And played, I can't remember what he played at Florida. I can't remember what level though, but was at a higher level in Florida in terms of just the overall size of the school as well. That's something important to keep an eye out to, the size and the level of competition they go against. But
Yeah,
go ahead.
his level of play is higher than what Ja'Cory Barney played at, if I'm not mistaken. And their game is very similar. I think he's a smaller version of Ja'Cory and probably a quicker, faster version of Ja'Cory. And so you look for him to kind of next year when Larry comes in, you got a guy at one from Florida, very similar skill set, very similar in size, that can kind of teach you the ropes of the offense and the specific position in which you're going to play. It's a big thing for Nebraska that they basically got their heir to Ja'Cory going to be here next year.
Yep. And then so Ron T, first comment, clowns. All right, Ron T, man. Bone-let corn-fed cheetah. He got here a little early. Got here at old 3:30 my time. Different y'all's time. What's going on, Justin? Appreciate you hopping in here, man. Logan, hi, what's going on, man? Just gained a sub. Hey, appreciate you, Logan. Thank you so much, man. Mike in here as always. First like. Yeah. All right. That's what's more important, the first comment, the first like. I'll let y'all decide that. But go ahead and like the video. Gary the Cable Guy, 199, man. We'll pull the super chat thing up.
Whoops, sorry.
Yeah, you removed it. There you go. That's what you get when you donate here. 199, man. Thank you so much for the contribution to the channel. We greatly appreciate it, man. Anything so much as a view, a like, comment, any donations, it really helps us out. So thank y'all. Let's see. Larry Mouse committed. W. Larry, let's go. Has anyone heard anything about Isaiah Mosey moving to running back? Yes.
He's going to be like a
hybrid.
I just drew a blank on his name. That guy from West Virginia that was there when
Steve Slayton
was there.
Steve
Slayton, or who's the other one too they had?
Pat White was the quarterback.
Yeah.
Who else?
Did one dude, Tavon Austin.
Oh, Tavon Austin. Yeah. I was like, I knew there was another fast guy, short guy.
That's what I see his role being. Very similar.
Yeah. I can definitely see that because it's just like. I think with Mosey, they're just trying to do whatever they can to take advantage of all of his ability. And I just think having Jamar on the team to really guide him too. And I think we need kind of a Swiss Army kind of Deebo Samuel type of guy like that too, though. And I think that's very valuable.
He's going to have a great role early in his career at Nebraska. I'm curious what it looks like in a couple of years after he's probably gained a little bit of weight. Developed a little bit more as a route runner, and just gotten more familiar with the offense. He's a really, really good athlete. It's just about getting him on the field where you can right now, and that's why they're kind of shifting him back and forth.
Similar to Carter Nelson last year, tight end. It's a more, tight ends, it's a lot more of a load to learn tight end than it is to learn receiver, considering they know the routes and stuff like that. There's the intricacies of, bulking up and stuff like that for tight end position. So where you have it here, it's just a matter of getting them on the field quickly, and it may have shifted a little bit naturally with Dana Holgorsen being the OC now, but they talked about all last offseason, the 49er style of offense. Maybe they are trying to have like a Deebo Samuel type of player, intertwined in there as well, just because of the benefit of it, of being able to have a guy go there you can line up all over the field. So it's just a matter of if the depth at wide receiver is there, which I think it is.
Yeah.
Let's see. Needs more weight for recruiting for a running back, though. The thing is, he's not going to be like he's not going to have to take up like 15 carries a game. It's not going to be something like that. It's more so where he's going to get opportunities, but he's going to be out there and doing a lot of movement, screens and stuff like that. They're going to be using him as a distraction, but also as an offensive piece. But it's not going to be one of those things where he's going to be rolled out there as a running back, to do the dirty work, so to speak.
He's bigger than people think too. He's probably 200 pounds right now.
He is. Lowest helmet always wins leverage wise on defense and offense. Well, not always. If you run into a quad of somebody who's high stepping and you put your helmet right to their quad, you're getting ran over. It happened to me in Pop Warner. I was like, I got this. Lowered down, took a thigh right to the face, and I don't remember what happened. I just kind of was on my back, kind of like, what? That hurt. Meat chicken game already sold out through the university. Meat chicken.
Meat chicken.
Oh, meat chicken. I was trying to think of a mascot. I'm like, who the hell are the meat chickens? Iowa? The Hawkeyes? We were projected to get linebacker Calvin Thomas. Yep. And we will go through a couple of dates of upcoming announcements that we have as well. Who agrees Iowa should be a night game always? Bears Kingdom. What's going on, Bears Kingdom? Appreciate you hopping in here, sir. You're new. Well, welcome into the show, brother. Appreciate you hopping in here. I was just talking to a Bears fan about the fact that they listed quarterback ages of starting quarterbacks next season in the NFL. Sam Darnold's 28. I don't know why. Like seeing Sam Darnold, in my mind, Sam Darnold was like between 32 and 34.
I feel like he's been in the league a long time.
But seeing him on the same line as like Kyler Murray, I'm like, dude, in my mind, Kyler Murray is like 28, but in my mind, he's like Sam Darnold's like 33.
Yeah, he's a very traveled or journeyman quarterback in a sense, where he gets the vibe where he's older because Kyler's only been in Arizona.
But it's crazy if you move around. If you move around a lot like that, they call you like a seasoned veteran. But like, you know what I'm saying? Like nobody really looks at Kyler Murray as like a seasoned veteran. It's like, oh, is this the year he finally does something?
But you put him on 4 teams in 4 years,
he'll be a seasoned vet. I didn't cheat. I commented as soon as I got on. I'm just kidding, Bone. Like, we appreciate it, man. You get in here early. Listen, you deserve it. Let's go, boys. Who's y'all's favorite commit so far? Oh, that's a tough question. Have you had time to think on that? Let me think real quick.
I know the top 2 right off the top of my head.
Claude Puma
is
number 1 for me. Number 2, let me look at our commitment list. Oh, Danny Odom, yeah.
Yep, those are my 2. In terms of 1, position of need, and 2, the skill and talent, you couldn't really have hit it better than they did with those 2.
No, yeah. Once I looked at there, I saw Danny Odom. I'm like, yeah, that's the obvious answer. Yeah, cornerback and offensive line were the 2 things we needed the most, and boy, did we land some studs with those 2 spots. Go ahead.
I'll say when we land Calvin Thomas, he might be not only need wise, but just athletic ability might be 1 or 2 for me. His film is insane. And I'm not like a big film junkie where I know every little thing. But just watching it, you see a guy that's so physical. He's quick. He's twitchy. He plays with good spacing. There's just so many things I like about Calvin. Once he commits, he might be my favorite.
Yeah. Yeah. And you look at too, just this one thing I was going to talk about was the offensive line class this year already versus last year. You know, we got my notes oh my gosh, I have 18 Word documents up because I never close my Word document. So when I click Word again, it's like it brings up all my stuff that was unsaved. I like hoard my notes. But Hayden Ainsworth, Rex Waterman, Claude Puma, Leon Noel Jr. And then you look at like last season's, for instance, where we got, of course, we're not going to see the fruits of the labor payoff, but just in terms of like name and impact, in terms of how these recruits are, Houston Torres was a big one, of course. And then you have Sean Hammerbeck.
He's got a couple of years to develop. He's got to gain some more too.
You had Juju Marks and Brian Tapu.
2 big tackles, a center, and a guard.
Yep. And then I think the highest was Houston Torres at 88 rated, 4-star. And then we go back to 2024. I was just wanted to take a quick look at this and see.
The 24 class is really good.
Yeah, we had Grant Bricks. But outside, so I thought like my biggest underrated guy there was Gibson Pyle. I really like Gibson Pyle.
Me too. I think he'll be in position to play in a rotational piece this year.
Mm-hmm. And then we had Landon Davidson, 85 rated, Xander Ruggioli, 84, Jake Peters, 83. So my point is, like, you look at the recruiting of the offensive line now compared to year 1, year 2, and it's already ramping up another level.
Yes.
And we saw hints of it with David Sanders, visiting, like I talked about before, whenever David Sanders was, Nebraska was late, super late on that process. They didn't talk to David Sanders until Rhule had basically decided to come back to Nebraska, and Rhule and him were both committed to Georgia. And then, he kind of talked about Nebraska. Nebraska got in on it. So yeah, it was like, it's one of those things where it's just like, it's the fact that we had got him onto campus and got momentum in that short amount of time against teams that are recruiting for years was huge. But now we're starting to see some commitments come from these top guys that were in. And of course, Kelvin Obo committed to Utah. So he ended up committing to Utah, which is a great get for Kyle Whittingham. Like, he's going to be an absolute stud, probably going to vie for playing time early and often there. So, so missed out on Obo, but other than that, really kind of took the bull by the horns this week in terms of that 26 class.
Yeah, Nebraska was really close to missing out on both Obo and Mapuma. I mean, it was a late conversation with Coach Rhule and Mapuma that turned that tide for Nebraska. As bad as Auburn, we were talking before we went live, was Auburn's recruiting is kind of a mess right now, and they were still, up until the final, couple days before his commitment, they were still probably the favorite. And that final phone call with Rhule's what turned the tides for Nebraska to get Mapuma. And then they went out and got Leon Noyle at the last minute because he was very likely headed to Mississippi State. And again, a late phone conversation with Rhule and with Rhule steers that commitment to Nebraska. That's why, like the saying, coffee is for closers. You're seeing it right now. In the last 24 hours with two big-time offensive linemen.
And then we ran into. Can you back out, Megan?
Mm-hmm.
We're echoing. For those of you that are new here, this happens sometimes because StreamYard is terrible, and so it echoes like twice per show. But he'll be back in 2 seconds. What I do want to pull up is there was a little bit of a debate here, and we'll get back into more recruiting talk too. Just a second. So, Brian, what I was going to do is I was going to pull this up, and I saw this earlier. Now you have the ESPN report talking about whiffing on recruiting.
Yeah.
And then you have Rivals saying the June recruiting winners, and Nebraska is, of course, in there. So you got BYU, Florida, Florida State, Bama, Georgia, Michigan, Michigan State, Nebraska, Texas, Texas A&M. So you have one publication saying Nebraska is whiffing, one saying that Nebraska is winning June, and it turns out that July has started out with a bang, or just in general, July has started out with a bang as well. So yeah, ESPN kind of looking dumb right now. There was this big back and forth Twitter feud today, and they're talking about what Matt Rhule's tweet was about. And do you agree that you think this is what his tweet was about? And for those of you that don't know what tweet I'm talking about, Matt Rhule had tweeted something about it's about time they start putting players over profit or something like that. Let me go back.
It was about profiting off of negativity
and despair. Yeah, too many people have profited financially off of negativity and despair. Their time is over. A few names can pop in our head there. Do you think it was about that?
I don't know what it was about. It was odd timing for sure. The day before the NIL rev share thing kicks in, kind of odd timing as well. I don't know entirely what it was about, but all I know is ESPN sucks. And I remember when I used to use like On3's recruiting when I'd do a video and it'd show like all the star rankings. And I'd always say in the videos, we don't count ESPN because ESPN's garbage. They're the absolutely worst recruiting publication. You notice that they have all the SEC guys super high ranked. They have everybody else below them.
I don't know anybody who uses
shittiest recruiting rankings.
I don't know anybody who uses ESPN as their recruiting like ranking, or like, we pull up 24/7 on here. Nobody pulls up ESPN. Nobody goes to ESPN as their first thing to check recruiting rankings. I never check ESPN's recruiting rankings ever.
The only people that do it are, let's be real, it's going to be a recruit who has an incredibly high ranking at ESPN. I can think of one that Nebraska was pursuing, and I always said his recruitment felt off. And he was one of those guys that ESPN had like number 1 or 2 at his position, and literally everybody else didn't have him in the top 50. And I was like, this is just the most bizarre thing ever.
Yep. Duck R position for Isaiah Mosey, exactly.
That's the old Frost position.
Yep, the Duck R. Golly, great times. Joseph in here, Husker Wrestling. What's up? Go Big Red. Wow, this is the most excited I've been in 25 plus years about Husker football. Great info, Justin and Brian. Go Big Red. Appreciate you, David. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
I was telling my wife last night, I said, like, because like even seasons where I like kind of pumped myself up for them, convinced myself, like, drink the Kool-Aid and all that. Like, there was always like, I know that we're not at a level to, compete for 10, 11 wins, this is the most confident I've been going into a season. Not only, but I think it's because it's not only just about the team this year. This is the most confident I've felt about a team this year, but I think it's because like everything momentum wise going into the season, like we could come into the season with a really good Frost team that we thought like, okay, there's a lot of talent on this team. We think this team could be very good, but we still didn't feel great about the program,
Yes.
And like, this is the first time I've gone into a season with like, I feel like the floor is higher. I feel like there's less things that can go wrong. And so I think that's where a lot of my confidence is coming from, is like the floor is much higher this year just because of all the momentum, the culture change, and the way this team is and vibes and just the specific way they've been able to do things. Like, I think that momentum keeps the floor much higher, because I feel like during Frost each year was just a disaster waiting to happen. One slip up and it was gone. And I feel like this team for the first time is one that can get back on track, if that makes sense.
Yeah. That one year, was it 2016, where they went 3-9, lost every game essentially by single digits?
At a plus.
There's like these
50.
simulators that redo that. And Nebraska on average won like 8 to 10 games that year. They only lost, and they redid it 100 times. And Nebraska only won 3 games 3 times in that simulation. That was the one year where they should have been a hell of a lot better than they were. They just were so incompetent. And then his final year, you're thinking, we got Casey Thompson, we got Trey Palmer here. We should be pretty decent. And then right out of the gates, you just screwed up in Ireland. And then the rest is history. But this is the first time where it's quiet confidence, where they're not being, overt, outspoken. It's just, we're going about our business. We're doing our thing. We're not going to do a bunch of press tours, crap like that.
Yeah, and it's more so like kind of like you're talking about, less press tours, more in-house stuff, like just the leaking of the pictures with the recruits and all that. Like it's really building that family vibe. And every recruit we've talked to on here, I asked Jamal about it last week, about that familyness and like that family atmosphere. And that's one of the things that stood out to him. Outside of, first thing everybody says that we ask is the facilities.
Yeah. That's why I always ask about their favorite thing, because everyone has something different.
Yes. And more often than not, they list the facilities like initially, because by far, and from recruits that I've seen everywhere in the country too, use RevShare for Bo. Yeah, exactly. Let's get some Bo Bassett funds in here. Sam Darnold seems so much older. He does.
Yeah.
Like, Sam Darnold's been on a lot of NFL teams. Do you guys think Trey Taylor will get his 5th star? Without a doubt. There's no doubt in my mind he will get his 5th star.
I think right now they only give out a handful of 5 stars just because of the recruiting calendar. Once they redo it or whatever, he'll be a 5-star, because he's a top 20 player, and there's like 30 or 45 stars every single year.
Yeah, he's gonna get it, unless they just drop him for him. But 24/7 wouldn't do that. That's an on-3 move.
Yeah.
So
now rivals.
Yeah. Do you guys realize how talented our linebackers are? Wow.
Yeah,
I do.
Very young, other than the guys that are leaving. I mean, you have 3 guys leaving after this year. That's your concern.
And I talk about this all the time on the show. Like, my love for Dason McCulloch. Like, he is somebody who just doesn't get talked about, which is crazy to me, because he might be our best defender next year.
He's going to be a freak. I've always said, like, you just got to imagine being the quarterback, and you see on the left side, you got Dason at 6'5", 6'6", 230, 240. And on the other side, you're going to have Javen Wright, who's 6'5", 6'6", 230, 240. And both can rush and both can drop. And you're never going to know who's coming, because they're going to have Willis McGahee and or Vincent Shavers on the field at the same time as both of those guys.
Good luck. Because
it's insane how good they are.
that film review that I did on Dayside McCulloch, where I just showed a few plays, and then I showed a 4 consecutive play goal line stand that Oklahoma had against Texas. That was the one that ESPN said was copyright infringement, even though it was all 22 footage from the press box. So yeah, they screwed me, and I had to delete that channel because YouTube's copyright system's broken, and they prey on small channels. Thanks, ESPN. No, but in that sequence, like he blew up 2 runs, and one where he was on that side, and one where he got blocked, had to bounce off the block, get to the outside, and contain that outside. And then there was another one where they had Xavier Worthy lined out left, and they were just doing a quick little screen pass to him from the 1 yard line, doing a little quick screen pass. There was one-on-one coverage out there, so Dason was coming from just right outside shade of the tight end shoulder, and he was able to collapse out on that to help that DB. Xavier Worthy caught it. The DB kind of stood him up for a second, and Dason was over there in half a second, taking out the hips, taking out the leverage, and stopping that play from getting. So he can cover anywhere on the field. Yeah, you can bring him out there to help on the outside. You can drop him into coverage. You can bring him on the pass rush. Like, he is going to be an absolute nightmare defensively for teams next season.
Yeah, and just to piggyback off Joseph's comment there. With Dawson, the shoulder injury is my only concern, because I know he had the surgery in the offseason. He was out for all of spring. How is his weight? 1, is it the right weight? 2, and then obviously the conditioning aspect of it as well. Like, those 3 things are answers we don't have right now, and we're going to find out. When does camp start? 3 weeks from now? We're going to find out real quickly. Because I think Dawson is a guy that can probably come in for 10 to 12 snaps a game, behind Willis McGahee, behind Dasan McCullough. We don't need him to make a huge impact right now because we're so deep at the jack linebacker spot.
Correct. Oh yeah, exactly. And that's what's going to be beneficial, because that way, make sure that he takes the time to recover. Because if you rush those, it's going to lead to setback after setback and potentially structural issues down the road as well. So I love Gibson Kyle. He was my favorite O-line commit, holding it down for Houston. But no, his film was my favorite. Yeah, without a doubt. He's a dude. Dawson's injury needs to put on weight. Rumor is Gibson is a little like Incognito, little mean streak.
Good. We need that.
I thought he meant Incognito at first, like he's just like gone, like he disappeared. then it made sense. Thoughts on Texas State going to the? Yeah, he's just like, he's one of those country boys, man. Like,
where do you go to school in Houston? I gotta find that out.
Klein Kane. I'm from Houston.
Because
Klein Kane is.
Because Calvin Thomas is going where my wife and I want to move here in 6-8 weeks.
Been injured, should be healing up at some point. I saw a tweet and I commented on it. Some idiot trying to talk negative about Coach Rhule, and it had me heated. Guy sounded so stupid. Yeah, the negativity towards Rhule, I don't understand it, but I kind of do. I think it's just people who hate Nebraska. It's former Panthers fans,
especially,
who don't realize they should be hating David Tepper still instead of Matt Rhule. Like, your organization's trash because of your owner. So
they were trash before, and they've been trash since.
David Tepper is garbage. Last month without football, it's crazy to think about. Whoops, found a bag of cash in my driveway. Bone leg corn-fed. Go ahead and donate that over to Bo Bassett. You know, people never bring up why Scott Frost couldn't win. He couldn't win because of strength and conditioning, also bad coaching. There was a lot of why Scott Frost couldn't win. I mean, honestly, his recruiting was terrible too, because he really didn't have a plan, an outline. Once he went in thinking like, okay, I'm recruiting Nebraska, but I'm gonna recruit heavy Florida now that I have those ties as well. And but whenever the Florida schools were getting better, he was starting to lose out, and Nebraska was having to go to their secondary, tertiary, fourth commit like in that, like their option, second, third, fourth option, because their first and second option were usually taken. So you ended up with, you had some high level recruits, you had some guys out of Florida, but even those guys were finicky. And then by his third season, I don't even know if Florida recruiting was his top 2 in terms of commitments. And then it was sporadic from there what the secondary and tertiary state was. Nebraska was very under recruited. I think Matt Rhule got more recruits from the state of Nebraska in his first 2 cycles than Matt Rhule had in his entire 5 cycles. which is
Scott
crazy
Frost.
to think about. Matt Rhule had more than Scott Frost. Is that what I said?
Yeah. You said Matt Rhule had more than Matt Rhule.
Oh yeah, my bad. Matt Rhule had more than Scott Frost did in that time frame, and I think that foundation is one of the biggest reasons why it failed in terms of just the overall player base. But yeah, strength conditioning, bad coaching, that falls on him as well. Bad coaching in terms of definitely in terms of like strategy and in-game coaching. I think he could game plan pretty effectively, but I just don't think he could make adjustments at all.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a combination of all
they
those
panicked
things.
at the last year. They totally were. They were screwed. They had to go out and raid the portal, and then they just didn't really vet guys properly for the most part. And then you're scrambling with Coach Bush as your special teams coordinator. You had to promote him because you never had a special teams coordinator, and so Coach Bush did the best he could in that time frame when he was just not even assistant. What do they call him? The like off field, like an analyst essentially.
Oh, yeah.
So Coach Bush was in a tough spot, and then of course Frost gets fired. Now Bush is your new DC. I always wanted to ask Coach Bush when we had him on, what was the decision process behind that onside kick in Ireland?
Yeah.
I don't think he'd answer it though.
I think what they were going for is a statement, put it away, catch him off guard. I think it was just one of those things where it's like you're playing with house money and you're playing. I think at that point we were outplaying them so well that they were like, what's the worst that can happen? Not realizing who we are.
Yeah.
And the thing about here's one of my theories on it too with Scott Frost is like, with him being in Nebraska, I feel like the players almost felt his panic and his urgency. And I feel like that trickled down to them. I feel like that panic of him having pressure, putting pressure on himself to win, the players felt that. And I feel like that put extra pressure on them.
Yeah.
That's me. Saw the bad strength and conditioning third and fourth quarter of every game. The O-line can never protect the quarterback from first quarter to last quarter. D-line got tired 100% every single time. 92 of our 125 scholarship players are sophomore or freshmen.
Yep. That's why we're taking 15.
Exactly. Ross didn't realize there was a fourth quarter. He was worried about his next shot. Just getting there. Go Big Red. Catch the beginning tomorrow. Thanks. I appreciate you, man. Hit that like button. Yes, sir. Y'all, please hit the like button. It really, really helps us out. So thank y'all so much. Carolina sucked for it's David Tepper's fault. Nebraska. Now time to close on Devin Jackson. I know he's favored to Oregon. Yeah, we'll go through a few of the upcoming commitment announcements and prospects that we got coming up. Nebraska and Calibraska, man. Ugh, it's rough times. And then your Calibraska movement, nobody made it to canvas out of that really. Keyshawn Johnson Jr. made it for a little bit, and then he immediately got caught with smoking some that devil's lettuce. Got kicked off. Frost failed because he treated his job like he was a college kid. I think he treated his job like it was like he was buddy with the players, and he was trying to be too much of a young kid. So, will Nebraska get Bo Bassett? God, I hope so.
That would be insane, wouldn't it?
Oh yeah, Penn State's going through their stuff, so we'll see. Nebraska, Oklahoma
What does
State.
he wrestle at?
Question. Second.
Joseph would definitely know.
You can pull it up because I want to dive into the rest of the commitment announcements we got coming up. So, is there any other breakdowns on the recruiting stuff for the people that we got coming up?
I've got crystal balls in for Devin Jackson, which I know he's favored to Oregon, but I think even if he commits to Oregon, I think you check back in December, he might be a Husker.
So that's Calvin like an ultimate crystal ball.
Yeah, I still think Nebraska has a chance here, even though Oregon is a strong favorite. They've got 2 safety commits already. Nebraska's taken 1, and it's him, and they'll hold that spot for him. Calvin Thomas is very close to an all but done deal. He announces on June 12th, I believe. Then
July 12th. July 12th.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, July. Yeah. And I think that would be almost it. Valden Stone supposedly announcing soon. And I mean, I know Georgia has 5 D-line commits. I still think they're the favorite. And I think once that does happen, if he doesn't commit to Nebraska, Nebraska will then pivot to probably some of those Georgia defensive linemen and try and steal one away from them, honestly, because they need help on the defensive line. You got to take one or two, and right now you've got nothing to show for it.
Yeah, and let's talk a little bit about, Leon Noel. We haven't talked about him really. So go ahead and we can give an idea of kind of what he brings to the table. But he's one of those guys who can play a little bit kind of up and down the line potentially. Interior offensive line listed as, but what was his? Let me pull him back up because he was a little bit.
He's kind of a tweener.
Yeah, let me see here. Let me pull his.
I think he's 6'4", 6'5", 270 to 275.
Yeah, 6'4" and a half. Yeah, 6'4" and a half, 255 is what they have him listed as. So, might be able to shift up and down the line. Just needs to put some weight on, but overall, just a solid lineman. Good balance, good feet. I'll break down his film more in detail for y'all. So I'm probably gonna have like a lineman, maybe a full lineman video where I kind of break down just a couple clips of each of these linemen's film, kind of go over that. But just a really sure piece depth guy, almost a 4-star, 87 rated on 24/7, I believe 88 rated with their composite. So, what are your thoughts on him?
This was a very much a tough battle for Nebraska. Like I said earlier, just kind of that last minute phone call to tip the scale in Nebraska's favor. I remember when he left for his Baylor visit, that was kind of, the vibe was very much, Nebraska still has very much as a chance, but Baylor's going to make a big impression. It's close to home. Waco is not that far from New Orleans. I don't think it is, at least, right? Probably 4 or 5 hours.
It's a pretty good distance from New Orleans because I
lived not as far as Lincoln.
I lived on the east coast of Texas, and I was still a pretty good drive from New Orleans, like a few hour drive. So let's see.
Okay. But it's not like a terrible.
It's 8 hours.
Okay, that's not awful. That's like from here to Chicago.
Yeah.
But I thought Nebraska did a good job during the official visit weekend making up that ground. I definitely think they surged ahead, and then Mississippi State. It kind of just seemed like it was like whoever was getting the visit was taking the momentum away, which is not uncommon, and always the last visit typically. A lot of times is who that person ends up committing to. The longer it went between that Mississippi State visit and Nebraska's, the commitment to Nebraska was the best thing that could have happened, because if you have a commitment really quickly after that visit, it's more than likely never going in your favor. So the longer it dragged out, the more it kind of felt like this might go back to Nebraska. Eventually it did. The big thing with Leon is, where does Nebraska see him? And I broke that down a tad bit in my commitment video of him, because he could play right tackle. Like you said, he can slide all over the line. Do they like him at tackle and Hayden Ainsworth inside, or they like Hayden Ainsworth at tackle and Leon inside? It's just kind of up in the air. But that's stuff we worry about in a year or two from now.
Yes. And I think the biggest thing is they like the positional flexibility. That's one of the things that I've noticed.
Yes.
Like, for instance, the Texans. I'm a Texans fan, but one of the things I noticed that they do is they really like these versatile, like they went and got Kenyon Green, who ended up being horrible. But the idea was there that he was kind of a raw prospect that could be moved around up and down the offensive line. That's where his value is. So these guys who potentially can move around and you can plug and play, those add so much more value to the line, because let's say one set of linemen, this doesn't work. Well, if you move this guy to this position, like, and swap a couple guys around, like that's, in a lot of cases, that is the solution to the problem. And so if you have, the more of those guys you have, the more positional flexibility you have to try to just plug and play with different combinations. I mean, naturally, they're going to want to get them locked down to one specific spot, but I'm just saying, in the case of emergency, that flexibility helps a ton. We saw where we needed last couple seasons with injuries, 2023, especially to the offensive line. You need that positional flexibility in those guys that can cover down in other spots. So
every offensive line recruit they have right now plays tackle currently in high school, either left or right tackle. Actually, 2 play left, 2 play right, and only one of them is a for sure left tackle prospect at the collegiate level, and that would be Mapuma.
Yeah. So, and with tackles, it's interesting because tackles typically have the really good feet. typically have the longer arms too, but they have really good footwork because they have to be able to kind of play a lot of things on their heels. Basically, everything's on their heels. They're if they got a pass rusher coming off the edge, their immediate step is out, and kind of backwards, but it's out, and you got to get those arms out on them before they're able to knock you on your heels, since you're already kind of taking that drop step backwards. So yeah, they tend to have pretty good footwork too. So that's why I really like offensive tackles. But all right, let's see. About to be Shy Nebraska next.
Yeah.
No, but building up in where we have in the Kansas City area, St. Louis, and originally year one, it was that real hard push to get Texas back to a pipeline state, because Texas recruiting had fell by the wayside, and Matt Rhule immediately used all of his connections to get what he could in Texas, kind of just draw those relationships with those high school coaches and stuff like that. And now you see him still kind of building. And that's what I was talking about Scott Frost didn't do. You didn't see him building in these areas like this. Oh, okay. Like one off season, Matt Rhule's target was really hard on building, groundwork in Texas. Then one off season, this past recruiting, he's really, was it last year and into this year? Kansas City has been a hot focus. St. Louis area. Getting guys out of the Jersey area, with our ties there, because those guys play a specific brand of football as well. So we've got a couple of guys out of that area. But the big states that we've traditionally recruited in very well, that's the states that they're trying to divvy back into. So
with their coaching staff, they have a lot of connections to key pipelines. I think one thing that people kind of panicked early on about was the lack of in-state offers or whatever. But look what they're doing with their coaching connections. They're hitting Florida. They're hitting Chicago, which EJ Barthel has tons of connections in Chicago. You see that with Trey Taylor. You see that with Claude Puma. They're hitting Florida. They're doing a good job of what connections they have, exploiting them to get the talent from those areas. At the end of the day, who cares where it comes from? Just win.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the biggest thing is is locking down, kind of like they've tried to do is that 500-mile radius I talked about earlier. That was one that was gone by the wayside, and that's the players that are going to stick with your program the most.
Yeah.
So hope we still Darian, and we have his best friend. That's a pretty big deal. I think at the end of the day, if not now, later this year. Shot at him. Coach Manning said we were in pretty deep. Penn State is going through their stuff right now, so I crossed them off. Nebraska seems to be really hot now in wrestling. I think that's the biggest thing is it's the push now, whether you want to go with the traditional power or the up and comer.
Weight is real, regardless of what sport you're recruiting. The momentum you carry carries so much weight, and they're hot right now. And someone's going to want to come to a hot program. You saw it right now, just with football recruiting. You get 1 or 2 or 3 commits. Next thing you know, you have 7, 8 commits in the month of June. And a lot of it was in the last 2 weeks.
What, if anything, do you guys think of making Matt Rhule's tweet the other day? Too many people have profited financially off negative. Yeah, we talked about that a little bit ago, but just to brush back over, we weren't 100% sure what it was referring to. There was a couple things of speculation about profit financially off of negativity and despair, meaning that ESPN article they post out about Nebraska whiffing in recruiting, which made no sense because Nebraska is obviously not doing that. It could have been that, or it could have been due to kind of the NIL conversations and revenue sharing and stuff like that. So hard to know for sure, but a lot of people were speculating it was the articles that were posted. So
yeah, I have no idea.
Which one of our coaches would win in a boxing match if all coaches boxed? Now, this is an interesting one. I got to go.
Coach Campbell out of it because he's the strength coach?
I got to look through all of our coaches. Let's take the strength coach out of it.
Okay.
He's obviously
I'm going Rob Dvorak.
He's always going to be in the best shape. I just don't want to miss anybody, so I want to make sure. So you said
Addison
Rob
Williams
Dvorak.
looks like he could do some things too.
You said Rob Dvorak?
Yeah, him or Addison. Give me a defensive guy, no question.
And hold on, dude, I'm almost wanting to take and just because I'm I doubt any of them can actually box. So I just want to take Riola just to in the 30 seconds that they're not going to be gassing out. to just land a big ass punch from his huge frame. Just throw him out there swinging wildly. But yeah, probably. Yeah, I don't know.
Rob's like a quiet guy that I feel like is just an assassin.
Yeah, I'm just relying on the weight of Rhule to just land a big punch and knock him out. So,
yeah.
Georgia, Florida coming up big now. Josh Newberg said if Nebraska wins 9 to 10 games this year, they will win a lot of the big recruiting battles. We've been saying that I've been saying that for a couple of years now. Nebraska, what they've been missing this whole time, like what's the difference right now between the Nebraska recruiting of the world and the Ohio States is the winning. That's the big difference. Like Nebraska's recruiting at a level that if Ohio State wasn't winning, they probably that's kind of where I see it. I think the biggest step to that is just winning. That's the last piece that's missing. They had to build the foundation, they had to build the culture and all that. Now they start winning. Those 5 stars that are visiting are going to be 5 stars that are committing. Yeah. So that is the last step in this kind of evolution for sure.
They've been in a lot of big prospects over the years with Rhule.
Yeah, and that's something we haven't been like we haven't got a guy like a David Sanders to campus to visit like we did with Rhule. And like I can't think of one time that happened under Scott Frost like that. You get in a recruiting battle late, you're down to the last 2 schools against teams that have been recruiting them forever, top schools, and you had a legitimate shot there at the end and got him to campus.
I think Wandale was the only one, but that was so early.
Even Wandale, he wasn't a 5-star.
No, but I think he was a probably top 100, top 150 player, and even then too, he originally committed to Kentucky.
Yes, he originally committed there. Yep, I do remember that. Do you think Tony White and Pot Roast have jobs after this year? Do you think Florida State falls by the wayside again this season? I don't think they'll get rid of White or Pot Roast after a season. I don't.
That's unless they all get fired. I mean, if they don't win 8 games, they're probably getting canned.
Yeah, it would take a complete disaster.
And I think they'll win 8.
Why do we not play lacrosse? I see it on Big Ten Network. It's a great question. My sister played lacrosse at the University of Texas, though, and my cousin's a lacrosse coach, and his daughter currently plays college lacrosse. So lacrosse is big in my family. I would love to see it. This many freshmen and sophomores, 8 wins would be huge. 9 would be incredible. I think 8 wins should be our bottom of the barrel standard. Like that should be our floor for accepting that as like progress for this coming season. Absolutely. We should definitely be in that 8-9 range. 10 would be a great season. Like I think 8-9, 8's a good season. 9 is really good. 10 is holy cow, we're back. Yeah. That's when we're saying Nebraska's back.
Nebraska's back and here to stay. Famous last words.
Yeah, exactly. Saw an interesting question yesterday. What female sport do you think Nebraska should add?
Hockey.
Hockey, bro. Women's hockey?
I mean, that or lacrosse.
We even got men's hockey.
Yeah, because men's hockey, you probably have to do more scholarships.
What female sports that we don't have, though, outside of those?
Yeah, there's a lot of sports.
Wrestling.
You could do wrestling,
because it's getting more popular. There's a lot,
especially in Nebraska.
Look at UFC fight, like women's wrestling. Just saying, keep it going with the wrestling side of things. I would be a great across couch. I bet you would. You'd be a great across the couch. That's Freudian slip if you were trying to say lacrosse coach. Women's wrestling. Yay, there we go. Mike agrees. Frost 3 wins, Rhule first year 5 wins, second year 7 wins, 9 wins. It's the right trajectory. It's just dropping 1 to Michigan, USC, and Penn State. Yeah, probably out of those 2, we're definitely going to be dropping the Penn State game. Yep. Michigan and UFC are very winnable. Tennis.
I think they have tennis.
Jeremy, you can be our tennis coach. We'll allow it. Do they have women's tennis? They might have women's tennis already.
I have no idea. I feel like they do.
All right, cool. So let me make sure I got all the comments here. I think I've got everybody's. And one thing I wanted to do too, Brian, I was thinking we could do this is like our confidence meter on positions going into this season versus last season or coming out of last season.
Okay.
I think that'd be very interesting because Let's talk about, like, think about it for a second. Coming out of the season, what was your confidence level in the quarterback position? Going into next season with what we had.
Going into next season, 2025, 2026 season.
Yeah, with where Rhule was at, the offense and all that. Like, what was your?
I'd say quarterback, you're looking at like a 6.5 to 7, and that's just because there's no depth, no experience in the room.
I'm right there with you. I was around that 6 range. Running back.
Oh boy,
this is when we anticipated still having what's his face though.
Dante Dowdell.
Dante Dowdell. I drew a blank on his name. He's dead to me. No, I'm sorry. But he is. But
I'm at like 4 or 5
in the confidence for last season. Going
out of last season into this upcoming season, and it's just because like
what is it going out of last season versus coming into this season though? Because like quarterback for me was like a 6 coming out of last season. Probably about the same coming into this season, maybe 6.5, 7, because I feel more confident in Rhule and his bulk and all that. Running back for me coming out of last season would have been about a 5, 6.
Yeah,
and I'd say I'm at about a 6.5 now.
I'm still like, I love the room. I love the talent in the room. There's just not a lot of proven talent in that room, and that's why I'm more bullish at like a 5. I love what you have at the top, though.
I think the 6.5 is my optimism for what the talent is in there, and so I admit that might be a little bit of a Kool-Aid, but I like the talent that we have in there. I think that's a potential 8 room if the talent plays out the way we think it can. But yeah,
absolutely.
Wide receiver coming out of last season.
Oh man, I was at like a
3.
I was at about a 2.
Yeah, 2 or a 3. This
season, and that was because of Jacory, and that was it.
This season, I'm about a 7.5, 8.
Yeah, I'm at a firm 8.
Yeah,
they're good. It's gonna be a good room.
Offensive line, I'm at about a 7.
I'd say 7. Yeah, okay. I think I'm a little higher going in like right now than I would have if you would ask me this in January. I'm higher now than I was then.
Okay. And then
because I like
the
depth.
Me too. Yeah, coming out of last season, 2 to about 8. Yeah, exactly. Defensive side of the ball. Or no, offensive line first. Did you already give your offensive line?
Yeah, I'm at an 8.
8.
Or I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah.
7 maybe.
Coming out of last season, I probably would have had it about a 6, 7, and I'm about a 7. No, I probably would have had a 6, about a 7 now. Let's go to the defense side of the ball. D-line. Coming out of last season.
Man. 5, 6.
I figured I was at like 5.5. Yeah. I was between 5 and 6 as well. Coming into this season, 6.5.
I'd still say 6, 6.5 tops.
Yeah. All right. Let's
that interior is very worrisome.
It is. Linebacker.
Oh, I'm at like an 8.5, 9, easy.
What about coming out of last season?
Probably 7. Still like a 7 because I think Wills, McGahee, and Vincent are absolute studs for the next 3 years.
I would say I was at a 7. I'm at a 9 currently.
Yeah, that room's nuts.
Cornerbacks are just, we throw defensive backs as a whole in there. I'm about a 6.
I was about to say I'm a 6, 6.5, and that's just because we don't know what we have opposite of Sierra Wright.
I was a 5 coming out of last season, probably 4 or 5.
I wasn't very high either. I'd probably go 5. Yeah, 5.5.
And then is that everybody?
We can do kicker, long snapper.
Yeah, right. Coaching staff, offense coming out of last season, going into last season. I mean, Satterfield made that offense would be an F if Satterfield was still there. But I do feel much better. I feel confident it's about the defense versus like when we hired John Butler versus now is night and day. For me, I never thought Butler was a bad hire because I always kept it in context of like, look at what Butler had to do. First off, he's coming from the NFL where they don't run a 3-3-5. So he had to come in and learn kind of the 3-3-5 system and kind of the college ins and outs. And he said he wanted to do that before he went and talked to any of his players or tried to coach them on anything. So he had to wait for that first. Learned that, and then he came into a injured, depleted defensive back room that was constantly struggling with injuries and nicked up throughout the season, had guys that playing out of position because the depth wasn't there. And so, like, I really didn't feel like you could grade his performance last year based on that, or talk about how competent or incompetent you think he is for a defensive coordinator position. That was kind of my thing on it.
I was kind of hesitant until I saw what they did in that bowl game.
Yeah.
Granted, yes, you had Ty and you had Nash, but look what they did with the guys that are going to now be your starters or rotational pieces. Vincent Shavers popped off. Willis McGahee popped off. Donovan Jones went crazy. That whole defensive line outside of Ty and Nash also went crazy. Keona Davis in 8 snaps had like 4 QB pressures. I'm not Davis. Jordan Ochoa.
Jordan Ochoa, yeah.
Yeah. So when I saw what his vision was, you saw way more aggressive defense. You saw way more like sticky coverage and man-to-man. I liked what it looked like. And now you're going to have guys like Williams Nwarni here and all the guys we've talked about for the last 7 months.
About, bro. This defense is going to be gnarly.
Yeah.
Let's see. Special teams. All right, we'll do the special teams. Coming out last season, it was a 0. Coming into this season, it's a 6.5.
I'm probably a little higher today because
I'm just going to say 6.5 because it's the first year under Eckler.
The reason why I'm really high, the punter, you got a long snapper
and a returner.
But
my thing is the field goals. Just can we get the kicker consistent? And so I'll keep it at 6.5 until we see the consistency from the kicker and the snaps and stuff like that. But I think in the future this will be a 9-10 unit.
Oh yeah, they're going to be phenomenal.
Appreciate it, Bone Leg. Great show, guys. See you tomorrow. Thank you, sir. Appreciate you hopping in. Week 1 of college football games is ballers. Some huge games. Yes, they are. Why did Nebraska dodge Tennessee this year? Oh God, here we go with this. Tennessee dodged us.
Today's not the day because I woke up pissed off this morning. So just
educate. Go ahead.
Look, okay. In 2015 and 2016, Nebraska had set this series in motion. Okay. And then Tennessee decided they wanted to play a fucking football game at our NASCAR track because that's what hillbillies do down in the southeastern part of the country. Okay. They asked Nebraska to reschedule the game. Well, actually, let's back up. They asked Nebraska to cancel the series. We said, we'll reschedule. We were scheduled 10 years down the road. Okay. Nebraska's getting ready to bulldoze part of the stadium because it's old. It's 100 plus years old. And they asked Tennessee to reschedule and they said, no. And then they went and cried on social media to control the narrative because they're SEC little pansies. Nebraska didn't dodge Tennessee. Tennessee dodged Nebraska, if we want to be real. We asked to reschedule. They didn't want to. Screw Tennessee. Screw the SEC. Expert level narcissism because they went out in front of the story and started controlling the narrative immediately.
Jeremy, stick that in your juice box and suck it, son.
I hate Tennessee.
Jeremy, it's all love. It's all love here, buddy.
Yeah, I'm not mad at you, Jeremy.
Appreciate you hopping in here. We just like to get our soapbox sometimes. Calvin Thomas, new crystal ball from Book Fong for us. We're echoing. So here we go. Agreed. R.I.P. him. Done piss Brian off. All right, Brian. Do you want to go ahead and close the show? I'll close the show. Put out the video you dropped.
Okay. Yep. Nebraska landed commitment from Larry Miles, 3-star receiver. That was right at the top of the hour. So if you want to see that stuff, go ahead and restart this video. Once we're done, you can always check out my commitment video. That is up on our channel right now. That's all I've got for today. Justin, we're good. See y'all later.
See ya.